And a happy Thursday afternoon to you. What's going on? I am Wes Styles. Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Happy Hour Live, coming to you from my basement. Unfortunately, thanks to COVID-19, that is where I'm working at. I can see my guest today, Blayne Weaver, having a laugh at that right now. We'll bring him in and we'll get to everything happening here with Happy Hour Live today and talking to Blayne. Blayne, you had a good laugh at me beating from my basement.
It's a sign of our times. I personally am in my kitchen, which is
okay.
Blank wall is all you're going to see. I'm going to keep the rest of it my private domicile. Happy hour.
Yes, happy hour to you, man. What do you got over there for you?
I have a little vodka and Diet Coke because I'm out of club soda. But so you got to be able to mix it up. You got to be able to improv. You got to be able to hit a wall. You take a left. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. I got vodka and water with a little splash of Mio in it. So
fantastic.
I got away from the cranberry juice. That used to be my go-to, but then gotta watch the figure.
You got to watch the figure, man. I'm with you. 0 calories.
Yeah, exactly. Almost right. My wife is like, "Oh, that Mio, that stuff's gonna kill you." I'm like, "Really?" Because cola's not going to. All right. Well, man, we're here to talk about your brand new movie, GetAWay, which is going to be hitting the film circuit soon. What's the first stop for it? Let's start there.
We are having our world premiere June 13th at the Dead Center Film Festival, which is this really awesome festival. Normally in Oklahoma City, I mean, it's in Oklahoma City,
right?
But this time they're doing this virtual fest, which is a brand new experience for everybody. It's their 20th year as a film festival, and I've gotten to go there many times. But this is the first time that I've ever done a virtual festival. So on June 13th, we kind of go live for one day all across the country, and you can kind of get a sneak peek at the film, and then it's playing the rest of the festival specifically just for Oklahomans. Oklahomans? I don't know. People in Oklahoma.
All right. I was just going to ask, how has the COVID-19 and everything that's been going down with the pandemic changed the way you guys are releasing the film? Obviously, that is one way of doing it.
Yeah, I think everybody has a different, a similar story in whatever world they're in. Obviously, movies, independent film are no different. There was a plan. COVID-19 messed that plan up pretty significantly, and so now we're just kind of winging it and trying to figure out the best way to get the art out there, to build an audience, to support other independent filmmakers, and Dead Center has been great about that, and I think it's going to be fun and unique. And one of the cool things about it that I really like is that the cast and crew will be able to see it, without having to travel to a film festival that usually it's just me and maybe a producer. So it's kind of a sneak peek for everyone that's worked so hard on it, and I think it's a good time for it. It's like I thought about, well, maybe we should hold it back, maybe we should, but it's just such a tough time right now. Like, if you can screen a movie and it'll make people happy, or in this case, make them scared, which makes some people happy, I think why not do it? Why not, explore this new territory of the streaming world and promote our movie doing it?
Absolutely. And I got a chance to witness the film, and I just love it as a whole. I am a horror film buff, and the kickback to such classic slasher films. I mean, I kind of categorize it as a slasher film. If I'm mistaken, please tell me. Are you a fan of horror yourself then?
Well, what's funny is I love horror movies, but I've never thought about making one. Usually when I started making movies, I started with romantic comedies. Now, I love romantic comedies, but really that was a budgetary restriction. It's like it's way easier to show a couple kissing than a car blowing up, right? So it's kind of like, all right, well, we'll do the romance. And then a few years ago, I ventured out and made this movie, Cut to the Chase, which was more of a thriller action stuff, but it was an incredibly low budget. And I was so amazed at all the things that we could make happen on that budget level. So this film, I'm kind of going off on a different tangent, but the way this came about was I was hired to do this Lifetime movie. And it was, this kind of romantic thriller kind of thing, and it fell apart at the very last second. But I was out there, I was where I am now at this university, Shenandoah University in Virginia. And like, I was about to pack up my stuff and go back to Los Angeles. And, the head of the film department was like, well, I know we're not coordinating on this bigger budget thing through Lifetime, but maybe we could do something smaller. Do you have any ideas? And I'm like, well, I guess we could try to pull off a horror movie. And so it was really, the necessity of wanting to do something. I was out there, I'd already, hired Chad McLarnon, who was my director of photography, to come out. And, we'd kind of built this team, and it was like, well, we should make something if we can. And so we never knew if it was going to work. It was all, flying by the seat of our pants, trying to figure things out as we went. The, script was always in flux. And we made this movie that I think is really scary, but in that 80s way where it's also fun, like it's a popcorn kind of thing. And yes, you're right, it's a slasher flick. As a matter of fact, that was the working title for it up until like 3 months ago, was slasher flick.
Okay. All right. Well, you're right about the popcorn thing. As I'm sitting there this past weekend, my wife and I were watching it, and thank you for giving us the ability to watch it, because the idea, like you said, like an 80s slasher flick, the kickbacks, a lot of times I felt like I was watching one of the first 2 Jason films, first 2 Friday the 13th, because the way it's shot, and I don't want to give too much away, but the way it's shot on certain kill scenes, I'm like, I'm right back in the old school classic slasher films on this thing.
Well, that was one of the great things I had, was Chad McLarnon, my DP and my producer, loves classic horror movies. Mm-hmm. So, he has a encyclopedic kind of knowledge of these things. And we would be, shooting and moving. And like, obviously we were on a crazy, crazy tight schedule, and we were shooting nights. So I would have the shot list, and then he'd be like, no, we got to get the shot of the hand and the knife. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, the thing where it goes, ah, and then stabs like the close up of the knife hand. And I'm like, yeah, okay, man. Yeah, let's get that too.
Yeah, fine. Let's get it in.
let's get that. But yeah, it has become, as we were building it, more and more of that. And by the end of it, like I said, the script was always changing. And by the end of it, we really knew what it was. When we started, we weren't quite sure. We were by hook or by crook going to make this movie. And then it became, it kind of developed its style through what we were doing.
All right. You say the script was in flux. So where did it start to how it ended up then? Like, explain to me how that all ended up happening.
Well, we had a script that I had written a long time ago that was like the structure of it. Okay. But then we kind of built all of the characters around the talent that we had, like which is something that I've done a lot of in the last few years, of like, from Cut to the Chase to Santa Girl to this film. It's like, okay, what do we have? It's like, well, I've got this great actor over here. I need to write a part that will, accentuate that great actor. Or I have this location. We need to twist this around and make it this location. We got this location of the campgrounds, which I never thought we'd be able to find something so amazing. That's the Buffalo Gap Retreat in West Virginia. If you ever want to go, it's awesome. They were so incredibly generous to us. And the location,
the amount of blood you spilled in that location. I mean,
there's a scene in the movie where it's basically, so the movie's about these college students who, for a school project, are going to shoot a horror film over the weekend. So they go to this camp that has just closed for the season. And one of the kids' parents owns it or something, but there's a caretaker there, right? And there's a scene in the movie where the guy says, oh, we're going to be shooting a movie here, so if you hear people screaming for help or whatever, don't pay any attention to that. That's just us acting. And that was a literal conversation that I had with the people, with the guy who was there to make sure we didn't break anything. I'm like, you're going to hear screaming all night long, but we're in the middle of the wilderness in West Virginia, and like nobody cares except for maybe this guy. And he was like, he came out and watched a couple of things. It was like, all right, see you guys later.
I have no interest in this.
I have no interest. Being on a movie set is really boring if you don't have a job to do,
No, absolutely. I've never been on one, but I can only imagine. Speaking of the cast, we'll get to everybody in the cast, but you've worked with I assume a lot of the cast is students of Shenandoah, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So there's this weird thing. Should I tell the Shenandoah world?
No, please do, because the Shenandoah world, because you worked with them for Santa Girl as well, which is your previous film in the project list, if you will, to this one in Shenandoah, which, by the way, go check out Santa Girl. Is it still on Netflix?
It's on Netflix, and it's on Amazon Prime too.
Yes. Fantastic film. I love it. Even if you don't want, some Christmas holiday spirit, it's a great film right now to lift your spirits in the turmoil that we have in the world right now. I definitely recommend you check it out. But tell me the Shenandoah Story.
Okay, so I'm in Los Angeles, and I've worked with this company a couple of times called Capital Arts Entertainment, and they hire me to go to come to Virginia. There's a university, Shenandoah University, that has partnered with Capital Arts to make feature films for the marketplace, not as student films, but as we'll use the location of the university, we'll integrate the students into the project so that it's a learning on set kind of thing, and we'll make this movie. So I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never really dealt with, teaching or educating or anything like that. But I came out, had this amazing time on Santa Girl where, again, we had, 3 or 4 key crew members, and then we filled all the supporting team with students. And then we would add parts in the movie of little like parts for the students to play. And it was really a successful experiment, and it sold to Netflix and was a business success for them. So they wanted to do it again. And that is why that was the Lifetime deal, right? It was another thing where Capital Arts was partnering with Shenandoah University. And so I came out, and then that fell through. And so then it was just kind of the Shenandoah Film Department. And so what we did was we used all of the cast were part of the acting conservatory or the musical theater department. So Shenandoah has this like renowned conservatory for actors. So we had all these great young actors who had never done anything like this. And it was awesome. It was like one of my favorite things about it was giving these great meaty parts to young actors who had never been on screen before, and still were in school. So it was like this, I had to kept telling them, this isn't a school project. Like, this is real. Like, when this is over, this is going to go out into the marketplace. It's like, every movie I've directed and produced has gotten a release, and it's out there in the world, and this will be no different. I'm not making something for your education. I'm making something to make art for the masses. And they were like, okay, whatever. And now they're freaking out that we're about to go like at this film festival, go live for the whole country, for a day. And it's cool.
Talk to me about Joshua Cody. He's Noah in this film, but he was also, I think if the character is right, JR in Santa Girl.
That's right. Okay. Joshua Cody is my, if I'm Scorsese, he's my Robert De Niro. Okay. At least in the Shenandoah Valley. He was a great actor in Santa Girl. And, I'm one of these guys, I like to work with people that I know. I like, if someone's good, I of course want to use them again. And, this world where we're in right here is this kind of strange little snow globe, but the talented people, the people that are great to work with. And this is true, whatever size film you're making, you like actors who are not difficult. Right. And like, the difficulty level like gets more high based on how much they know their face is worth and blah, blah, blah. So you can't really handle that kind of pressure on an independent film. So like, I love to find great actors who are also very cool people and also understand what independent film is, which is like, you might be sitting here for a little while, or, while we were shooting Getaway, here's a perfect example. The kids had school, right? So and I went to college at UCLA, and I studied English literature, and I had maybe 2 classes a day, tons of free time to go and do a movie. These guys are in a conservatory, so they're working from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. pretty much every day. And I had no idea about that when I took this on, by the way. So we were trying to figure out how to get the most nighttime hours humanly possible without killing these kids and like just not letting them sleep at all. So the answer tended to be that we would go out there Friday after class, and they would stay at the cabins, and we would shoot all night long, and then they could sleep for a little bit, and then we'd shoot daytime scenes. But like them being cool with that and actually being excited to do something like that is it's everything. Because if I have somebody who's a prima donna or difficult or whatever, it just messes up everything. Anyways, that's the reason I like to work with the same people over and over again. And that's why Mr. Joshua Cody is always on my short list.
Well, he did another good job when I saw him in the press photos. I'm like, wait a minute.
I know
him. I know him from Santa Girl. You had a great cast in this film, and Emma Norville, one of the lead actresses. Man, she does a fantastic job in this movie.
Great. She's awesome. That was another thing again of the by hook or by crook kind of way that we went about this, where, I wouldn't say we were nervous about the level of acting, but we definitely knew that we were working with perhaps accomplished theater actors, but that had little to no experience with film. And I was just overwhelmed. Paul DeFranco is my producer. Chad McLaren is my DP. We were kind of the brain trust, the grown-ups in the world. And we would just like shoot a scene and then be like, that was good. That was really good. This conservatory is doing some good work over there. But yeah, like the talent is amazing and they're young and enthusiastic. Like there we go. Francesca Contreras and Emma Norville right there. Amazingly talented, and they bought into it so much. They were so excited to be doing it. And it's like, when you work with LA talent and whatnot, it sometimes gets to be a thing where you have to convince people to follow you, and that was something that we did not have to do with this at all. It was so great. And Chad was even commenting the other day, we had our trailer drop on Dread Central, which was a great placement for us. And, the key is always we have to have it shared. Like, everybody go share it to all your followers. So then that spreads out. And normally there's a back and forth convincing kind of thing that happens with LA talent because they haven't seen the movie yet and they want it to be good, but they're like, is it good? Because I don't want to share it if it turns out to not be good. And these guys are just like, yes. And so the shares are through, and it's great. Enthusiastic, optimistic, and ready to do more work. All these actors are hireable, by the way, just so you know.
Anybody out there watching, hire all this cast. This cast right here in that scene.
Exactly. Look at
this shot. All of them do a great job in the film. The film is called GetAWay. It is going to be hitting the again. What is the film festival that's going to be hitting?
Dead Center Film Festival. It's because it's in Oklahoma City, which is the dead center of the country. But the cool thing is, anybody can check out the movie for that 24 hours on June 13th, and it's deadcenterfilm.org is where to go for that.
Okay. Well, very good. Make sure you all check that out. Again, GetAWay is the film. I got a chance to see it over the weekend. If you love slasher horror films, this is right up your alley. I honestly was truly impressed by it. I mean, you talked about the cast and what went into you picking these particular cast members, because as you said, you're like, you got a pull and you're looking at these people who might not have film experience. So how do you pick these people? Do you do casting or what goes into that?
Yeah. It was we did a full audition, and saw tons and tons of young actors. And, again, part of it's kind of crazy because it in one hand, it is a benefit. On the other hand, it's a little intimidating that we can do anything we want. We can kind of figure it out as we go. So I saw some actors for some parts that, were in the original script. And I'm like, oh, great. But I'm going to do something different for this, and, yes, they all changed. It all changed based on the actors and my relationship with them. And I'm like, oh, you're funny. Okay. You get more funny lines. And, Michael Recchia, who plays Krog in the movie, is, I think, a comedic genius. And, so many times in the movie, what he said was funnier than the scripted line, like off stage. So I'm like, say that thing. And then, and we would just have to get it clean, like his improvs. And I'm like, stop, go back to one, say that without everybody talking over each other. And then that's going into the movie. So that's what you want. You want actors to bring their own decisions, bring their own choices, and, bring their character. And then the director sees it and says, yeah, like that, more of that or less of that. Right. So when I get to work with a good actor, it's really just like playing jazz. And that was very much like how it was working with these actors. And again, they were such great sports because shooting a horror movie is incredibly difficult. It's cold. We froze ourselves.
Right, so what time of year did you film this then?
It was literally, the truth was, this camp had just shut down for the season and they were about to shut off the water, which, so it was like November something.
Okay.
And, it was, when we looked at it, it was warm. I had a light jacket on. When we came back to shoot, it was like camping weather because the heat was off. And, we had to have all these little private heaters, and there were like 6 different cabins that the kids had to spread out in, but we all stayed in the one that had the best heating systems going. And then there's the other stuff of like screaming and going to that place, right? Which, again, this is my first movie like this, where you really have to convince the audience that you're scared for your life, right? And that's intense. And it's very intense to have some dude in a mask chasing you with a knife, even if it's rubber. And like, there's a lot of, I think, the Scarecrow guy, scary. But there's a lot of, these actors have to go to some place really deep and primal, and it's asking a lot. And like, I was surprised at that as we were going through it. These kids were very accessible, ready to go where we needed them to go. Also, fake blood is usually really cold and really sticky and really uncomfortable in a place where they've just shut the water off. So we're actually like, people are having to go away with bottled water to like get this like sugary, gross blood stuff off of them. It's very specific. And I think a great bonding experience for the team. Like, we definitely, I mean, it was hard. I never described it as a good time while I was there, but it was a special time, and something that I think has kind of bonded all of us together, of like, going through any kind of rough shoot like that does.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Wow. Speaking of that blood, there's a lot of it in the film. The kill scenes, for being an independent film, looks very realistic. And honestly, because they're not over the top, which is fantastic, because one of the things I've always hated in horror films is when they go over the top. I'm like, this is going to look way more extreme than it needs to for what it is. Right. Making those kill scenes, what was your mindset going into it with what you had?
Yeah, I mean, we, of course, like, I'm that kind of guy that, like, it's a slasher movie. It's a throwback to 80s, slasher movies. I like practical effects. I want to do as much in camera kind of stuff as we can, which means a lot of that fake gelatinous blood stuff. But also, I'm with you. I don't like a lot of over the top gore kind of things. But what's interesting is, I've learned since we finished the film and we're like taking it out into the world, is that there are some horror fans that's all they want, like, that is the end all be all. And I'm like, I dig that. That's not what this is. This is much more of again, in the style of a 80s or 90s film. Almost everything's in camera. Chad, my DP, would go off and build these little contraptions of like, look, it looks like it's, going right through her. Like, what? Do you not have enough to do on your plate? But we, would build these little contraptions that helped sell the gag. But I'll tell you what, the biggest thing that happened was just the sound design. We had this great sound mixer. Studio Unknown is the name of the company. Okay. And Chad kept saying to me, he's like, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, everybody says it's the grossest movie ever, but there's really very little gross like visuals. It's all sound design. It's like, so we should focus on that. So I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And it's amazingly effective. Like, instead of showing the thing, you hear it and your mind just thinks that you saw it, and you can't believe how gross it is. So it's a weird thing. And again, I feel so strange talking blood and gross, but it is that kind of movie. It's a slasher movie, and if you like that kind of thing, you won't be disappointed.
No, definitely not. And definitely make sure you go check it out. Again, what is it? June 13th, right?
June 13th. Yeah.
June 13th. Yeah. Make sure you go check it out.
DeadCenterFilm.org.
DeadCenterFilm.org. All right. So again, the film is called GetAWay. A lot in there. I love this character, and I'm going to pull up a photo here of the Scarecrow guy, as you say. What went into the design of making your killer for a film like this? Because you got to not make it like everybody else's.
Yep.
You got to make it your own. And he's not really known as anything else other than the killer.
Right. And like, that's a very good question, because again, it was in flux all the time. And I kind of came up with an idea of what we would have him wear and how it would work. And then I realized that I was totally ripping off Michael Myers. Like, I was going to have him wear one of those zip up things. And then I'm like, well, that's the exact same thing. And my costume designer, Taylor, suggested a trench coat, which I'd never seen. And like, I'm like, okay, that's great. That's great. And then she went off and she made a scarecrow head that was really terrifying in real life. I hope that it translates at least half of how scary it was in the middle of the woods, you know, seeing this guy running after you, because it was intense.
It looked great. I mean, and again, not to spoil anything, how it comes to play in the film is fantastic. So, and that shot right there is one of my favorites in the entire film.
Yeah, it's great. We have this photographer named Kimberly Needles, who's very talented and is always looking for those kind of things. And she just sends us pictures, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness you were there.
How long did you guys shoot the film for? Like, how long was the set of actually filming? Because you say you did it on the weekends with these kids because they're in school during the week. So how many weekends did you have to do it?
It was literally an 18-day shoot. And most of those days were half days because we just would lose everybody. And then what happened was one of the worst things that happened on this movie was that we had a snowstorm that shut us down completely for a day. And we were on a very tight schedule because we were trying to finish the movie before the last day of classes, before everybody went home for Thanksgiving. Because like, if they left, the camera has to go back to the rental house. Like, Chad has to go back to Nashville. We don't have the team to make it anymore. So we lost this one day. It actually turned out to be strangely this blessing in disguise, because I was on the school campus, Chad was on the school campus, and Abigail, one of our actresses, Abigail Haggerty, was there. And so we had a very quick kill scene for her that we had just kind of like, we were going to shoot it in addition to a bunch of other stuff the next day. And so we spent the whole day, just the three of us, shooting it. I put the outfit on to be the bad guy, and we chose a new location where we could fake, like in the apartment that we had there. And we just spent all day shooting it. And initially it was going to be this little tiny, quick thing. And we spent all day doing it. And, it got some work done during our snow day. But the problem with that was we lost a day. So then the next day was a 19-hour day. Not for all of the kids, but for me and the director of photography. We literally didn't put the camera down. There's Chad McLarnon right there, DP and producer. But we shot all 19 hours all the way through, and it's pretty much the entire climax of the movie when we're out in the at the camp before the ending. No spoilers.
Yeah, I can't. I'll mention something about it here, but it's saying, remind me real quick, is Abigail in this shot right here?
No, she's not there. Yes, she's not in that.
Okay, so she's the director of the film then.
Exactly.
Okay. Now I remember her. Now I remember her scene. Okay. That's you in the costume?
I got to wear the costume quite a bit because the actual killer, whose name we will not mention,
right,
but had class. So like oftentimes we would just kind of like barrel through, and I would put on the little outfit and get, and I always said, of course, because I'm, a director and I'm very responsible. I said, well, any kind of stunt work or anything like that needs to be me because, I want to protect all of you. But it was really because I like chasing, people with this crazy knife and doing these cool stunts and, flipping over tables and all that kind of stuff. It's super fun. Like, I love that stuff. I'm an actor too. So like,
right.
It's the best, but it's so much fun. Like that's the best stuff, really.
That's fantastic. Well, that's cool to know, because now I just love the inner workings of how a film happens. Horror film, Santa Girl, whatever it is, just the cool little inner workings, the things you find out about what happens behind the scenes of such a film like that. And that's cool to hear that you were the
comparison killer. In Santa Girl. I am Santa Claus's hands in every single. There's these
really.
nice there's these chapter breaks where Santa reaches in and opens a book, and so I also dressed up like Santa when it's appropriate.
Really? All right. You know, what's funny is I think when my wife and I were watching Santa Girl, we were like, whose hands are those? Because those aren't Barry's.
No, we can't hit Barry's day rate for handwork. Luckily, mine is incredibly low.
No. Oh man. So we mentioned that you were a fan of, horror films. What's some of your favorite stuff? What inspired you for this film?
Halloween is my favorite horror film of all time. And
the original.
The original, yes, not the remake. I just rewatched it right before making GetAWay, and I'm like, this is just as good as I thought it was. Okay. My favorite thing about it is there's a shot that we kind of emulate in GetAWay, but like when Laurie Strode is walking home during the middle of the day and she turns around and she sees, the guy standing by the hedge. He doesn't have a mask on, but it's so far away you can't see that, what he looks like. It's so scary. It gives me the chills right now. But it's like, I love them thinking about that. Like, I wish I was part of the conversation of how far away does he have to be so we can make sure we can't see his face, right? Because this is film. This is not like they're going to go and, do like a digital color correct and just kind of erase his face. They have to decide how far away he has to be. And then, they get in the lab and they're like, oh, wait, I can see it's the stuntman actor guy.
That is cool.
I just think I love that shot, and we copy it pretty good.
Well, there's a lot of great shots in that film. That is probably one of the best, like, slasher, like, if you're going to do anything to base it off of, probably one of the best ones. What are your feelings about the rest of the Halloween series, the original series?
I don't really have much feelings about them. I remember watching the one where Corey Haim Corey Feldman is going to become the next Michael Myers. Do you remember that one?
No, that's Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. So obviously I don't know much.
But no, I completely agree with you on that one for the Friday the 13th series. They started stretching a little too far. When Jason went to Manhattan, I was like, yeah, done.
Right. I like I think the reboot that they just did, the David Gordon Green, is that who it was? They just did something that it was pretty good. I don't know. It felt too expensive to me. I know that's a lame thing to say, but like there's something about it being very analog that makes it all the more scary to me.
Which, not because you're on this happy hour live with me, but honestly, the way GetAWay feels from start to finish is very much that classic slasher film. Like, if I felt like it had it not been like shot modern day, cell phones and all in there, would have felt like an 80s film to me.
Yeah.
Like,
well, thank you. And we had a lot of the same restrictions. So again, it's kind of like necessity is the mother of invention. Like when we knew what our budget restrictions were going to be, it became like, all right, well, let's embrace this. Let's go with this and, make that kind of, what we're making.
Okay. Vic in the film, if I'm not mistaken, is he Jack Frost and Santa Girl?
He is indeed. He is indeed.
More Santa Girl in this film.
Hank Stone is this great actor, incredibly accomplished actor. Like, he's been in all of these great movies. He's got this great scene in The Patriot with Gibson, and he's in this other movie. What's the other movie that he's in? I can't think of it, but it's I can't think of it, but it's one that always makes me go, oh, that's so cool. Great Hollywood stories. And he was here in Winchester, Virginia, teaching an acting class. And I'm like, when I got here to shoot Santa Girl, this is a perfect example. When I got here, I said, oh, you're here? Great. Well, you're in the movie. We're going to retrofit this character to be you. And he's great. It's like when you find talent, it's a crime not to use them.
I had to take a second because obviously without the makeup, didn't know for sure if he was, Jack Frost or not.
But he's still a very intimidating presence.
Oh, he is. You sit there and you think if he's the killer, no spoiler. So
exactly. Who's to say? Not me.
Yeah, exactly. The opening scene, not so much the opening scene, but the opening credits, if you will. There's a lot of classic films in there. What went into having to get the release to get all those to put into that sequence?
Well, it was a idea that I had of like working in, because again, movies are a big theme within this movie, right? These kids are making a horror film, and I'm like, what if we used a bunch of like B movie horror film tropes? Like, maybe there's some stuff that's available, and my producer Paul DeFranco is expert at that kind of clearance, and he knows everything there is, and he just gave me this entire cache of movies to choose from, and it was incredibly intimidating to me. So I gave it to my editor JC Doller, and I'm like, are you at all interested in trying to cut a opening title sequence that is not connected to the movie but is thematically going to be on point? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. And then, I'm not kidding, it was like 3 days later, he sent me this. He's like this? And I'm like, this is so much better. I love it. I love our opening titles. And I am not an opening titles fan, right? That's an important thing about me. Every movie I've made, the opening titles run over action. So we see that we introduce the characters, everything's happening, dialogue is still occurring, and it's just like, Blayne Weaver, up and around what's happening. This is the only time where I've been like, yes, this is so cool. And I think it really puts you in the right mindset for the movie, which I think is key, right? Especially with a horror film, right? Because there's so many different types of horror film. There's the ones that are actually going to make you like feel depressed for the next 3 days. And there are the times that like, might make some people ill to their stomach. And then there's something like this, which to me is a popcorn, oh, you're jumping, you're on the edge of your seat. There's some laughs. There's some, hopefully some jumps, and but at the end of the day, it's fun, right? And I think that opening title sequence really, really knocks that home.
And it plays well to the opening sequence before we get to the opening titles. So I mean, it all works out perfect.
In the opening title and the opening sequence of the movie, something bad befalls a college professor, but that college professor is played by my fiance, Cherish McCormick.
Okay. It was funny. My wife looked at it. It's like, she looks familiar for some reason. I don't know why. And she looked up who it was. She's like, I don't know her very well, but she looks like somebody I would know in film. Easy enough to call on your friends and be like, I need you just real quick. Come on.
Yeah. There you go. Also, she's available for hire for acting jobs.
You and Paul Osborne are starting to sound a lot alike when I talk to you both.
Hey man, we have a lot of the same, outlooks and philosophies. And one of those is, use the people you like over and over and over again, and then support their career. I mean, that's another big thing of it. Like, so Josh Cody, for instance, like his first movie was Santa Girl, where he's like the fourth lead or something like that. It's a great
he's got a prominent role in there.
Yeah, it's I want the best for him. I want his career to keep going up and up and up, and anything that I can do to help that, I'm invested, as I am with all the cast of this movie. It's like, I'm invested now, man. Like, you're gonna have to work with me for a while. Just keep doing it, keep making movies, because eventually, they're gonna look at Emma or Danielle, or Michael, and be like, well, what else has he done? And then you rent my movie, which is all I really care about.
Rent it when it comes out. What's the now? Obviously, you've got the release coming up for June 13th with the film festival. What is the plan for the film the rest of the way down, though?
It's a good question. I think what the opening of theaters is, what that is going to look like, is really going to dictate it. But right now, the plan is we're submitted to a bunch of genre festivals, a bunch of like just normal festivals. I'd like to do that for the next, imagine that we're back in theaters in 3 months, which might be optimistic. I don't know. But like, if we're back in theaters in 3 months, this movie could be out wide by Christmas. But, it's just everybody's pivoting. Everybody's trying to figure out what the best way to get the most bang for their buck is, because I want people to be at home excited to see this movie. I want people to want to go to the theaters. I want us to do a cast and crew screening eventually, one of these days, where we get to sit, in a packed theater and watch it. It's just whether or not that's a reality right now.
Right. All the kids now graduated that were in the film, or
they're all graduated, and it's very exciting. Like I started out as an actor and in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I left
where you shot cut to the chase, right?
Exactly. My hometown. There you go. you're becoming very adept at the Blayne Weaver body of work. But yeah, I left at 18 and I moved to New York, and then I quickly moved to Los Angeles, and I was there for a kabillion trillion years. But like, it's very exciting to me as a director now to, you know, be casting these young actors who are going off to the big cities. And, you know, we have actors that are in Atlanta and New York and LA who worked on this film. And it's just really exciting that they're out there, you know, starting their career. And I like to think that this movie will help that. You know, it's not bad to have a, you know, major role in a movie that just got its trailer on Dread Central. That's not bad.
No, not at all. Or being the director that helped to, you know, launch or be the pivoting point of somebody's career to get out there into the world.
Blayne Weaver, pivoting point of my career. That's what I want as everyone's IMDb profile statement.
Well, you know what? Back again, Emma Norville does a fantastic job. One of the lines in her, I think, I can't remember the exact line they used to describe her character. She can act in front of anybody, or
she's a great actress.
Yeah. And again, the actor herself is such a fantastic person. She does such a great job the whole way down. So if you're watching, Emma, kudos, great job. Appreciate you. Do you have any more films coming up with Shenandoah, or what's the next project for you?
What's weird is, so I came out to do those 2 movies, and then I went back to my life, and then they asked me to be a director in residence here at the university.
Okay, so pause there real quick. What is your normal life?
Oh, man.
Let's stop before we get into the Shenandoah thing. Let's talk about the normal Blayne Weaver life.
Complicated.
What happens normally when you're out in LA or wherever you live?
Well, normally, I guess for most of my life, I've lived in Los Angeles, and as a actor, writer, director. So I write a lot. Is normally my day job, and then I get these great gigs where I get to go direct a movie either for somebody else or I direct it for me. And then I moved to New York for like 4 years. So then that was crazy. And then I went back to LA, and then I fell in love with my fiance, who is in Louisiana, in my hometown. So I was doing this crazy crisscross of the country constantly. And then you throw Virginia into it. So it was like all over the place. And they invited me to have this like artist in residence position for a year and teach an acting class and teach a directing class. And I'm like, sure, that sounds like fun. And I had just gotten engaged. So Cherish and I moved to Virginia for the year. So this was supposed to be over, but now the movie that so there's a movie coming up that was also a partnership between Capital Arts Entertainment and Shenandoah University. So this is a bigger budget. This is right up there with Santa Girl. Okay. And it's another Christmas film. And we had just cast it, and we were about to start shooting when the COVID-19 happened and shut everything down. So now I'm not really sure of anything. So we're just kind of sitting and waiting. We're supposed to start shooting July 5th, I believe. So we're shooting it here at the university, and that's the plan, you know, and until somebody tells me different, that's what we're doing. But it's another Christmas film. It's called a Christmas Cupid.
A Christmas Cupid. Okay.
We're crossing genres, man. We don't care. 1 holiday, 2 holidays, let's put them together.
Oh man, is this like a sequel to Santa Girl with all the people involved?
It's a non-official sequel. I guess.
All right. Can you say who you casted?
It is the Quentin Tarantino universe.
All right, there you go.
I can't say anything because now they kind of have as we reschedule, we may not be able to, you know, use them, but it's on IMDb, and I don't think anybody's taken it off there. So if you feel like checking it out,
don't make me go do that right now.
I'm going to make you do it. I'm going to make no, it's okay.
Well, I'm doing it right now, man. You've got the time. I'm here with you, so Chris, yeah, you go ahead and get a drink. I'm looking this up. Yeah. Christmas Cupid. All right. I'm looking this up.
It's there funny, it is. It's charming. It's, you know, it's the kind of thing that I hopefully, like Santa Girl, is something that my grandmother can watch, my little niece can watch, and also I can watch and be like, it's pretty funny.
It's not pulling up. There's so many other ones. I will pull it up later then.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes,
we've got to hammer down on all this and finish up all this stuff, man. I appreciate the time, especially for this being on Happy Hour Live. Blayne Weaver with me. GetAWAY, the new film out, going to be out on June 13th for you to go ahead and check out. Again, the name of the festival, because I keep forgetting it. I apologize.
Dead Center Film Festival. So it's deadcenterfilm.org. Let me make sure about that. Yes, deadcenterfilm.org, which is also a great festival for any independent filmmakers out there. I've gone to it many times, and it's always a great time.
As an independent filmmaker, you've done so many films yourself over the course of your career. Any advice to those out there who are coming up that are in your shoes?
I think that, it's kind of like the mentality that I've built over, I think 7 movies that I've directed, has been, you have to take your opportunities, right? And when this thing happened with the Lifetime deal falling through, like, that was a bummer. Like, that was a legit payday, a legit budget, something that, like, you build your life around. It's like, all right, I'm going to do this movie in, October, and then I'll have that money for Christmas, blah, blah, blah. But when that fell through, it was like, why not make something and see if we can, do this independent, crazy guerrilla shoot and see what we can make. And I think the advice that I would give to others is, go for it. Like, there's, everybody makes missteps, but, like, you don't make anything unless you try. So, like, shooting, what I tell the students is, like, you shoot every weekend if that's what you want to do. Like, you can borrow cameras from school. There's no reason you shouldn't be making stuff. Like, if that's what you want to do, if that's your dream, grab a camera and go do it. Like, it's kind of like writing. Like, again, writing is kind of my my bread and butter kind of thing, but you can't wait for inspiration to hit. You have to just keep doing it, because that's what makes a writer. A writer writes. A lot of people talk about writing. Not many people do it every day.
All right. Oddest time that a writing inspiration has hit you.
It happened. I mean, here's the thing, is when you write hard, when you sit down and make yourself, it'll usually be about 35 minutes in. And then it'll be like, oh, but it's not romantic and like this great lightning bolt. It's part of the process. It's like sitting around and writing, stuff that you don't love for 35 minutes. And then you're like, oh, what I should do. And then you go back and you have to erase all that stuff. But that's what got you there in the first place. Like, all of that prep work is just the process. I can't, it's been a long time. I did a movie called Weather Girl, and years ago, 2006, I think. And Weather Girl came to me in a flash, and I literally sat down and wrote the basic structure of it over the weekend. That's a very rare thing. It doesn't happen all the time, but that's a great movie. Weather Girl is available all over the place, so please check it out. Mark Harmon, Jane Lynch, John Cryer. Who doesn't want to watch that?
And don't forget, Outside Sales is also on Amazon right now, too.
Outside Sales is my first movie. Which, has a special place in my heart. We had a really good time on that movie.
I haven't watched it, but I did see it on Amazon the other day, and I looked at my wife. I'm like, no, we're gonna have to watch this. If not before the interview, we're going to watch it. So awesome. You also, speaking of other films, there's an American Pie film you have either coming out or it's out.
No, it's coming out. I'm super excited about it. It's on Netflix in October, I believe. Okay. I don't know exact dates about anything, and it may not even be on Netflix, but there's a movie called American Pie Girls Rules, which is a American Pie movie where it's about 5 girlfriends this time, and I got to do some writing on it, and I think it's really funny. What's funny to me is, like, the whole time I was making it was when I had first moved to LA, I auditioned for the Jason Biggs character in American Pie.
In the original?
In the original, right. And
hold on. Let's dive into this. Keep going. New right here. Let's go.
Unfortunately, it's not much of a great story. I read the script and I thought it was really, really funny. And I'm like, I can't believe they're not actually going to do these things. Like, there's definitely going to be a rewrite before they get to shooting it. And I went and auditioned for it. I thought I was perfect for it, and casting, I guess, didn't. But I've always tracked it because I've always been mad at Jason Biggs because I felt like that should have been my part.
And now you get to write as a part of it, so it's kind of a full circle.
Now, it's super fun.
So writing as a part of a team, how is that in terms of just you? Because some films you write on your own, it's just you, but being a part of a collective group.
I haven't really worked as a team in a long time. I wrote a movie called Manic with Michael Bacall, and it's Manic, Don Cheadle, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Zooey Deschanel. It turned out quite well. Yeah. Well, that was like kind of my entryway into legitimacy, I guess. It got into Sundance, and it was very much an art house film, and I disliked the director so intensely that it drove me to direct. So I was like, I can definitely do this if this guy can do this. So that's my stock story. But like normally like American Pie had a couple of different writers on it, but we didn't work together. Like, here's the draft. I took the draft. I rewrote it. I was the
next person. Yeah.
But I was the last writer on this. So it's like everything that is in the movie has been touched by me, which I love. And it's super fun. And it was like the opportunity came about, and I'm like, what? I would love to write an American Pie movie. Like, that's the great thing about writing. It's the same thing as acting and directing, really. But like, there's so many different genres and different ways to go of like, sure, I'll try a horror movie. I like movies, and like being able to put my own spin on a genre that, I've written children's films. I've written, a couple of Prince and Me movies. I've ghostwritten a couple of horror films, and I just love trying new genres all the time and being like, okay, what's my favorite movie in this genre? And then I watch that. And I'm like, okay, what do I like about that? And then we go and, go to the races.
You're there.
Yeah.
That's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. So October is when we're going to hopefully.
I think so.
Right?
I think they don't tell the writer anything. Just
have you seen the final product of the film yet?
I have, and I think it's very funny.
Okay. All right. I'm going to bring up something that we talked about the last time you and I talked around Santa Girl. And by the way, check it out, Stylescast at Blono, rock967.com, and you'll see it here on the screen.
That's me.
The voice of Peter Pan. So for those of you who might not know, what's that?
That's absolutely accurate.
I thought you said it's not accurate. I'm like, did it change last time we talked? What happened?
No, thank goodness. Knock on wood. I get to be Peter Pan as long as they keep calling me, right?
All right. So do you change your voice much for Peter Pan, or are you just...
What's funny is if you watch anything... So I got hired to do the part of Peter Pan for the movie Return to Neverland, which was a million years ago in like 2002.
It's amazing we call that a million years ago.
It feels like a million years ago, but like the great thing about it is that, this is for Walt Disney character voices, and what they do is they like consistency. They don't change it until you can't really do it anymore. And so thankfully, I've been the voice of Peter Pan for 18 years, where I get to drop in and do a ride voice or do something for a fireworks display at Disneyland, or a random cartoon or whatever. It's the best gig ever. And getting to play Peter Pan, who's my favorite, childhood cartoon character, I guess, like always has been. It's great. And I change it a little. I just go up a little, and I talk a little bit like Wally Cleaver, like how they used to talk in the 50s, where they have kind of like, oh, geez, that kind of thing. Golly, beef, you don't know what you're doing, that kind of thing. Just go there a little farther and stick with the 50s thing. But it's me. And what's hilarious is all of my friends are like, I thought you would sound different, but you sound the same. Like, well, it's funny. It's my voice.
A generation gets to grow up on you as Peter Pan. That's the cool part. For me, if I got the voice act, that would be the cool concept in my head, is that like, I have a 10-year-old stepson, like he would get to grow up with me as that person. So. Yeah.
Well, what's cool, Wes, is that like for years, all of my friends would try to explain to their children, like, grow up, and it never works. It's like, they don't understand. They're like, he is not Peter Pan. That's not true. Right. So that was a disaster forever. And so, but now what's funny is like I'm dealing with college students a lot and, you know, actually teaching some classes and stuff. And they actually were children when this came out. So they think it's cool, which is neat. Like to be right in the wheelhouse of like, you watch this 60 million times in your living room. And now you're grown up and like I'm your teacher. And that's cool. I like that. I always hated that. No, he's Peter Pan. And it's being like, Dad, I think this guy's pulling your leg.
What are you teaching at Shenandoah right now?
Right. Well, I just finished a directing class and an acting for the camera class. And I'm about to start like a screenwriting class for the summer session. And then, you know, who knows? It's like we need to finish this Cupid movie and then, you know, I'm a Rolling Stone. We'll see where we end next.
Man, well, I'm looking forward to everything that comes down the pike for you. I've always enjoyed your work since the first time I ever heard about you was in Paul's movie Favor. And since then, you and I have kept a good constant flow of contact over the years, and it has been enjoyable to see everything you've done. Again, Getaway is out on June 13th. Make sure you go check it out, and then wherever it comes out next. But if you just enjoy a solid horror film, this is going to be right up your alley.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. And like, we're very excited about it and proud of the movie. And I just hope people get to see it and like it.
Absolutely. And for all the students who were involved in it too, it's just a cool concept to know that like they were involved in something and now the masses get to see this thing. Like,
right.
It's not just it's in our college class and we get to present it and that's it. It's done. This is worldwide, essentially.
It's real. And that was one of the things that we kept talking about on set all the time. I'm like, this is real, guys. This is real. Okay. You have to go to that place. Like, let's do it for real. And now I'm like, see, I told you so.
Oh man. Well, I thank you again. Happy Hour Live, Blayne Weaver joining me here. Stay on the line. Don't disconnect. We're going to go ahead and pop off here, but you and I will hang out in backstage. Don't forget on Tuesday, folks, we got Through Fire joining me. And then next Thursday, we'll have the guys in Dinosaur Pileup joining us from England here on Happy Hour Live. All the details at blowdo rock96.7.com. Blayne, again, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much.